Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our very first episode of Certainty Talks with special guest Larry. Goals, certainty on how we'll reach them, and wealthy on our terms by rigging the game. Good meaning people. So if you're not where you want to be in life or business, this show will share with you the practical tools and frameworks to help you get there. And as our mentor and business partner, Dan Nicholson, says, the biggest risk we face is that we don't get what we want out of life. And if you get value out of this show, please hit the subscribe button now. That way we can help more people become wealthy on their terms. I'm here today with special guest Laramie Gregory. Based in Tennessee, Laramie and his wife have invested in single family, multifamily, and short term rentals in 3 different states. He's worked on everything from simple projects that just need a little redecorating to complete rehabs. The main focus of their portfolio now is short term rentals and multifamily. I'm extremely excited to dive in with Laramie. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm great, man. Well, we start every show off with what we call a 6-word update. So, Laramie, what is your 6-word update today?
Still waiting to close.
Oh, tell me more.
Oh man, so we bought and sold lots of real estate, but recently we are selling our first business, and the business doesn't own any real estate, and so it's been a completely different transaction than what we are used to, and a lot of our experience in working in real estate has helped guide us through this process kind of on our own, but there's been a lot of things that have popped up that we just weren't prepared for, didn't know that were gonna jump up and bite us, and so we're extended past the contract deadline now. We're still waiting for some things, and we think we've passed the final hurdle today, but just stuck in this weird limbo period that we're about to cross. But it's been an interesting learning experience, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, you have such an incredible background. It's very diverse. So, I want to hear more about this business and what you're doing with real estate. But tell us a little bit about you. I mean, I covered it from a high level. You've done a lot of different things, single family, multifamily. Like I said, I know you're doing a lot with the Airbnb stuff these days, but tell us a little bit more about you and what you guys do.
Yeah, so I think probably giving a little bit of background for how I started my adult life would help. When I graduated college, I wanted to go into law enforcement, and that was what I did. I was a night shift police officer for 8 years, full time. I worked for 2 different departments, and when my wife and I first got married, I remember us being on our honeymoon in Asheville, North Carolina. We only had a small window of time. She was a second grade school teacher. I was a night shift cop. We had like 2 days over a certain period of time where we could get away for our honeymoon. And one of the things that we wanted to accomplish in our life and our marriage, we said we wanted to be involved in real estate somehow. We really didn't know how. We didn't know what it took to get involved, but we spent a lot of time watching HGTV and all these other shows, and that just planted a seed of that looks fun. We'd like to do something like that. We really don't know how we'd make it work, but that looks fun, and we'd like to have that activity that we do together and build some kind of income around that. So that's how we got started. 8 years into our marriage, our lives changed a little bit from going from a cop and a teacher into the world of direct sales, which was crazy and something that we never saw ourselves leaving our full-time jobs to do. But that gave us that additional income to be able to start investing in real estate and to fuel that passion. And it's through that process that we have learned a lot of valuable lessons. We've learned a lot of bad lessons, and it's gotten us to a point where we try to pass that knowledge on. We try to help the young investor that is much like we were, just starting out, trying to find their way and find things that work for them. But really, just trying to put ourselves into a position where we can teach other people from our mistakes and our successes, and hopefully save the next generation of investors from making those critical mistakes that we did.
Hmm. It sounds like you guys got started in real estate because it was fun, right? Because it's like this was a passion project. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say. And I can remember when we started initially, I was, our very first investment was our family had outgrown the house that we were in, and we were moving into a larger home. And that very first rental property was just the home that we were leaving. It looked like the numbers worked out for us to keep that, and we thought this will be fun. This will be our first property, and we'll hang on to this. We're going to be net positive, some cash at the end of the month. That's great. We'll own 2 homes. We can afford it. That's awesome. And then the second property was a beach home, and that was truly was fun. It was like, oh wow, this is going to be our lily pad, because we were moving every 2 to 3 years with our home, and we thought this is going to be a place that we have for our kids to develop memories with. They're always going to be able to come back here and have core memories throughout their childhood. Maybe going into adulthood, we continue to hold on to this home, but that's going to be the lily pad for memories for our family. And from there, things got a little bit more calculated in what we would put money into, how we would invest. But those first two projects truly did start off as fun.
Mm. And you mentioned wanting to be able to help others and different things like this. And I want to kind of talk with you a little bit about the solvable problem, because this is a very critical framework in the certainty operating system, what we talk about in the Whale Club and inside of Dan Nicholson's book Rigging the Game. He talks about
Mhm.
this idea of the solvable problem. And so I think of the solvable problem as being able to design your life in a way so that you get what you want on your terms and on your timeline. A lot of people call this maybe financial freedom. I do think that it's fairly broad. It allows you to do the things that you want to do. So talk to me a little bit about how you think of your solvable problem and how real estate plays a role in that.
So our solvable problem is getting us to a point where we develop as much passive income as we possibly can. So what can we design from the standpoint of real estate, in addition to some active investment that we have, this real estate, our jobs, and part of our life experience over the past 5 years has taught us to always be looking for multiple streams of income. So looking at that amount of passive income that we want that will pay for all the things in life that we need, the mortgages, insurance, all the other things that come up in life, being able to live, but then being able to have purpose through our jobs, through where we feel connected with different teams and things like that we run, being able to combine all of those so that it really reduces the stress in our life. And so we have a number that we are designing our real estate portfolio, in addition to the hats that we wear during the day, as business owners and active real estate investors. All those three things combined, what's that number that we need to get to, and how can we reverse engineer those three tranches to get us to that number that we need that's going to reduce that stress load in our life?
Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's fairly nuanced, this conversation, right? It's not just about money. It's not just about having fun. It's not just about helping others. We want all of these things in totality, right? We have, as real estate investors, most of the time we're buying real estate as an investment of some kind to generate this passive income that can help us get towards ultimately having the option to work. I think a lot of us want that. We want the option to be able to work. We also want to have fun doing it, and we want to be able to help others along the way. And so, yeah, as we get closer and closer to those things, I think what I've realized is some people just get stuck. They don't quite know where to start. It feels overwhelming. It feels like everybody else is doing it, and maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. But what was it like to take that first step into real estate? How were you feeling, you and your wife feeling? And talk to me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so that initial property, initially it was scary. Like, we're gonna have two houses, because I think most, my parents were very hardworking. My mom was a secretary. My dad worked in the aluminum company. My wife's parents, school teacher and a preacher, and so we were used to having the mindset of, I can only afford one mortgage. Money wise, that's all our budget will allow for. So looking at stretching us into, oh my gosh, we're going to be on the hook for two mortgages. Like, is this even legal? That was a huge first step for us to take. And then beyond that, it was like, okay, what are the actual numbers? Let's stop and look. Like, what are the current rental rates? What do we owe on this mortgage? How much are we on the hook for each month? And we're going to be able to build a reserve fund for things that come up for repairs and stuff like that. And when we sat down and looked at the numbers, it really helped provide a lot of peace in making that decision that, yeah, this is what we're going to do. We qualify for, being able to move up and get this other home. It's going to allow our family to grow, but we can hang on to this. And this other home that we're giving up for a rental is going to provide security. So that was that was kind of our first step, is trying to find that balance between opportunity and security. And I know the barbell strategy is part of what we're going to discuss later. But that was really in our mindset, is how can we balance that security and opportunity, looking at our first property.
Mm. Yeah, security and opportunity. I think that's what most of us want. We want to make a sound investment, but we want it to also help us get closer to the things that we want, whether that's passive income. Some people just they want a house at the beach. You know, they want a beach house that they can go and spend some time. It can, be rented to offset the cost of those different things. And so how important is clarity before you get started? And how does that play in with kind of the overwhelming feeling of all the options out there? Like, what risks do people run not getting clear on their solvable problem before they start taking off into life and business?
I think that's huge, because I talk to a lot of people that are on the cusp of making a decision to invest in real estate, and honestly, I feel like I talk more people out of it than I do helping people move forward. Because when we start looking at the deal they're evaluating, ultimately it boils down to, what's your purpose in buying this property? What ultimately do you see this doing for you, for your family, for your overall portfolio or retirement plan or financial landscape, whatever it is? What is this doing to get you towards your closer to your goal? And when we start looking at why they want it, sometimes, like you said, sometimes people are like, hey, we can afford to buy a beach house and we can afford to pay the other mortgage. We would just like to take a little bit of the edge off and rent it out whenever we're not there. And that's a really easy, that's a very easy, doable, solvable problem for them. This is just really taking the sting out of having a second mortgage payment if they get to rent it. Those are easy calls. But whenever I start walking people through, considerations about repairs, HOA fees, special assessments that may pop up, it takes someone from the idea of, yeah, hey, I want a second home, and I've done some research on AirDNA, and this is going to give me this amount of money a month, and I know I'm going to hit these numbers, and I'm going to be good. And that other part is providing clarity for them that there's more to doing a short-term rental than just number A and number B, that you're going to make this much money and you're going to owe this much money. There's all these unexpected things that pop up that you're only going to really know about if you talk to someone that's been in that space, that's operated in short-term rentals, or that's owned investment properties over a certain period of years, and they've seen the unexpected things pop up. That helps the new investor provide clarity. Is this the right decision for me to move forward in?
Mm-hmm. And the best part about real estate, I think, is that there's so many options out there. There's just an infinite number of ways to do it, and there's not a right or wrong way. A lot of this is preference based. And so part of what you and I have learned through this process of the certainty operating system and working with Dan is we've got to slow down a little bit. A lot of the anxiety and overwhelm comes from not taking the time to get clarity on what are your preferences. Or do you want to manage an Airbnb out of state? Would you rather invest passively? Do you really need to run an Airbnb, or is it better to partner with somebody else? I mean, there's just an infinite number of ways to do this, right?
Absolutely. And for us, you talk about the amount of things that are out there that you can get started with. Our first step was a long-term rental. That was it. And then we added a short-term rental, and then we moved over to doing a rehab on a duplex, which was, I was way outside of my scope of understanding and everything else. I mean, that probably should have been a tear down, but we stuck with it and redid that, and added some additions and everything else. But through that process, I learned, okay, number one, where do I find joy? Because, I wanted this to be fun. I wanted it to be profitable, but where did I find joy in these projects? And then along those lines, how did these projects fit in with everything else that we had going on with our family? Was I taking on too much? Were there things that I could outsource? That all those lessons that I learned very early on in those first couple of projects. But yeah, there's so many different ways that you can go when it comes to real estate, and part of it is that initial due diligence period for the brand new person is, what do you think that you're going to be skewed to, that you understand and that you will be comfortable moving forward? Because you and I could talk to someone, and if they have a chunk of money, we can say, look, this is exactly what you need to do with your money, and explain to them the best thing in the world that they can do, the properties they can invest in, or the project that they can invest in to get the maximum return. But if they don't understand it, they're always going to have this doubt, and that doubt is going to eat away at them as they move forward, and they're always going to second guess the decision that they made, no matter if the project's profitable or not. that lingering doubt in their mind is going to provide that uncertainty, and it's really going to just slow them down and gum up the gears and keep them from moving forward. They're going to be stagnant.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is a good time to sort of transition into one of the frameworks that we use to build out our real estate portfolio. And we call this the barbell framework. And for those that aren't familiar with the barbell, I want you to picture a barbell, right? If you look at a barbell, there's one major thing that you'll notice is that weight is loaded either on one side or the other. And we use this very visual tool to think through how to position our investments. And so I want you to think of one side of the barbell as reliable, highly predictable things. And on the other side, these are what we call asymmetric bets. So they have a lot of upside, but they have very little downside. For a lot of people, when they are just getting started in real estate, they have a very reliable job. They've been working for years and years and years, sometimes decades, and they have a career that they've built that's highly reliable, highly predictable, and they're looking to real estate to provide them some of that upside, some of these asymmetric bets. And I was hoping you could tell me a little bit about how you think of the barbell in terms of your strategy.
Yeah, so an interesting part of our story as a family is, one of the companies that we were involved with 5 years ago, almost overnight, we lost about 99% of our income. And we had both quit our daytime jobs to pursue this other opportunity. And like that money was gone. Thankfully, we had been investing in real estate. And so there was, planning for retirement and additional income coming in. And we had been a little strategic at that point about properties we had acquired, and the real estate portfolio could stand on its own and self-fund and operate and everything else. And we were able to just focus on getting our family through a really tough time. So making sure moving forward, this is one of the reasons that I don't think my wife and I will ever stop having a job of some sort, just because it keeps you connected to a network of people, number one, which is super important for our life and our lifestyle. But it also has just a little bit of stable income that is that reliability part that you spoke to. But whenever we look at the way that we're building the real estate that we have, the portfolio that we have, I started looking and evaluating the projects that we work on. We're pursuing some multifamily projects right now, but we do pursue a lot of short-term rentals. We have one that we closed on 2 weeks ago. We start demo on it tomorrow to get that up and going. And we always look, when we try to acquire a property, we're looking for properties that are needing a little bit of TLC, something that we can rehab. So we're buying it under market value, and we're looking to put value into it, get it turned around, know the numbers for the short-term rental, and do the rehab so that we have a significant amount of equity in there. But if short-term rentals, and we always try to design our projects with three possible uses. Number one, for that upside, we want to run short-term rentals. That's the most profitable thing for us. We get the upside of special events coming into our town, those big swings in prices. We want that. There's a lot more money to be made in short-term rentals for us than there is a long-term rental or something like that. So we want that. However, we want to make sure that we're acquiring a project where we have equity in it, that if the short-term rentals slow down and we had to just get rid of a project, that we're not taking a loss on that property, or that our numbers are such that we can afford to make the payment on that property. A lot of people are scared right now about a recession coming in and how that will affect short-term rentals. All of our properties, I'm happy to say, we could adjust to a long-term rental model and still make the payment on those homes. The particular area that our short-term rentals are in, housing is still in a high demand. And so we know that we're going to be either, able to short-term rent it, we're going to be able to sell it if we had to, or just use it as a long-term rental until short-term rentals come back around and are more profitable again. So that's how we try to balance ourselves out. We're looking for those reliable rents, knowing what our properties are going to rent for in the markets that we're in, knowing that worst case scenario, we can just rent this out to a family because there's a need for housing. But we're looking for that upside potential of what short-term rentals can bring us.
Mm. Yeah, short-term rentals, they're so interesting in my mind, especially if you can do what you've done where you've got fallback situations. The upside potential on a short-term rental is tremendous, even from a standpoint of, let's say that you're not as concerned about cash flow. You want somewhere to go vacation. Talk about an upside play. I mean, you get a let's say part of your solvable problem is that you want to be able to uh, have the option to go stay at Orange Beach in Florida whenever you want. Well, short-term rentals give you that opportunity because you have a vacation home that can also be rented out to cover the cost, right? So you can have a free vacation. I mean, talk about upside. That's incredible. The other point of it is too, like sometimes you run these short-term rentals like a racehorse. I run mine like a business. And I also still get to go stay there a couple of times out of the year, but it's cash flowing for me like $4,000 to $5,000 a month. That is game-changing, life-changing money for most people, I would say. You start collecting 2 or 3 of those and also kind of diversifying into these other areas of business, right? You're building out your barbell. You've got some very reliable plays, very consistent cash flow type plays. And then you might get some exposure like you and I are starting to do in some of these development projects, these ground up multifamily development projects in really hot markets in the country like Denver and Sarasota and St. Pete and all these different areas like this. And I mean, in my mind, there's just not a better way to build wealth than through real estate, as long as you can align it with these strategies, either reliable or make sure that it has a lot of upside with very low downside for you.
Yeah. And, speaking of, one of the projects that we're working on, when we looked at that, when that project came on our radar, it was about the time that we were looking to sell one of the businesses that we're involved in, and we were looking for a place to put a large amount of capital from that sale, and trying to help us with the taxes that were going to be due on the sale of the business. And for us, we could have looked forward into the short-term rental, but at the time there just wasn't really a good fit for the amount of money that we were looking at. And that's where those larger multifamily projects and group funding projects really fit into our solvable problem. It allowed us to have a place where we could park cash and look to start building a passive income stream that we really didn't have. If we don't manage our short-term rentals, they'll eventually wither and die. You need to do what you need to do in those areas to keep your ratings high, to communicate with guests. You're actively working that. But we wanted to take a portion of the funds that were coming to us and put over here and start growing in passive income. And the returns on those projects are phenomenal. And so it really helps us balance out our real estate holdings where we're not constantly working in an active project. We have passive projects now that are over here that have incredible upside. Being able to do some larger exchanges into other properties, working in a state where there's a lot of people moving to. Those things are amazing. And one of the best things about that project is working with new people, fun people, motivated people. Our business and life has really dealt with network marketing for years, and that really has served us well into being comfortable working with new people. And one of the people that we're working with, feel incredibly comfortable with him and his family, and those skills with being able to navigate things as a group, it can just open so many doors for you with things that are out there for a real estate investor to grab a hold of.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's my opinion that this relationship is all about relationships, period. Right. And this is a team sport, is what I've found as you start getting into this more heavily. Of course, you could go out and you could buy your own Airbnb and you could run it all by yourself. And there's a lot of people who do that. But in order to really build a portfolio out and to build financial freedom with real estate, I do think it does come down to, like what you said there, relationships. And part of the benefit of being exposed to more and more relationships as you get exposed to more and more options that are out there. I do think there's a lot of people who say, well, I don't have the time to rehab a house. I don't have the time to run an Airbnb, or I don't know anybody to invest with. And so for people that are like that are sort of learning to get started in this real estate world, they're wanting to get passive income, maybe they're just wanting to buy an Airbnb or something like that. What do you feel is the best way for them to get started?
The best way to get started is to look for. You can do some self education, and there's so much that you can do with self education. There's a YouTube video for everything in the world. I was laughing the other day, needing to do a home repair, and immediately where did I go? I went to YouTube. You can find everything that you want to see on YouTube. However, the personal connection and experience is not there on a video that you're watching, and it's helpful to have contact with someone that you can call and either get reassurance on a particular issue that pops up, have someone double check your work. Those relationship pieces are key. And so for the person that's just starting, it's trying to find how do I find someone that I trust? How do I get started? What's the right community? Who's the right person? Because there are a ton of teachers and gurus and people out there, and we got taken by one very early in our real estate journey that promised the moon on a turnkey deal, and it was a straight up scam. It was terrible. It was a horrible experience, and we were able to financially recover from that decision, but it was a horrible experience. And I think about the brand new person that may have saved and scrimped, and that was their first exposure into real estate. Man, they would have got burned and taken, and they may have not jumped back in to try real estate again. They just had a bad mentor or a bad person in that initial contact. So doing your research, trying to find the right group to lead, guide, and direct you in your journey is pivotal. That's a very important first step.
Yeah. Yeah, trust is trust is an interesting thing with the internet gurus out there, and
Oh yeah.
I want to just touch on quickly why we're such big fans of the book Rigging the Game. And in this book, this was a Wall Street Journal bestseller that my business partner Dan Nicholson wrote last year, and it essentially is an operating system to help you get the things that you want in life. And really, what I think about this is it's a way to make better decisions in your life. How do I navigate the terrain of life and business and things like this? And so, first of all, if you guys haven't heard of that book or you haven't picked up a copy, I highly recommend you pick that up, because that is the system that Laramie and I run our businesses through, right? The best part about fantastic relationships combined with an operating system is that now we all speak the same language. Right. So we're in a community called the Whale Club, which has got actually, we just crossed 90 members. And these are real estate investors just like Laramie and I all across the country that are using the book, Rigging the Game, the systems and the processes that they talk about there, and applying it specifically to real estate. Now, we're a bunch of active real estate investors. And we've taken this and really adapted it to real estate, figured out how to apply it, and we're very excited because I think that there's an opportunity to help folks that are looking to get into real estate or looking to passively invest in real estate. And you brought that opportunity to my doorstep. You said, hey, I think that we could probably help some people here that are, exactly as I described, looking to get into real estate or looking to learn more about how to passively invest or different things like this. And so, the relationships that we've been able to cultivate on top of the shared language, as we like to say, this operating system, and couple that with the specific knowledge. I mean, we've been in the trenches for the last however many years. I've been doing it for this about 4 years, and we've got probably hundreds of years of experience from our group, especially with very specific real estate knowledge. And so tell us a little bit more about what we're working on, Laramie.
Yeah. So in our initial conversations, I brought up to you. I said, "Man, I get probably one call a week from someone that's interested in getting started in real estate. It could be someone that I know directly, or someone that knew someone that said, 'Hey, can you talk to this person?'" And I've had a couple outlets that I could send people to, but in the conversations I had with you, I'm like, you know what? There's a great group of people from the Whale Club. A lot of great knowledge there. You, I, and Max. I think we all have a shared vision for being able to communicate and talk to people that are in those early stages, that they're looking for clarity, they're looking for certainty, they're looking for guidance, and couldn't be happier about the two people that I'm affiliated with, you and him, to help people get their initial taste into what does it look like to get involved in real estate. So this project for me, helping people get started, is really just having a reliable place that I can send people to get great information to help them decide whether they need to move forward now. Maybe it's press pause, wait a little bit more, but at least have a resource that I know and trust that I can refer people to. That's a huge thing for me, is to be able to refer people to others that I know that I can trust.
Well, it's all about relationships, right? And that's what it all comes
That's
back
right.
to. And we've been in the trenches, like I said, for the last. I've been working directly with Dan, and you've been a part of this community for a very long time, and really, we've been doing the hard work and the reps to learn how to take what was in that book, because it's not a real estate book, to take these tools and principles and apply it specifically to real estate. And I sort of jokingly say, like, I mean, it's not really a joke. It took me about 2 years and over $100,000 invested to learn how to really apply this so that we could shortcut the process for real estate investors. And yeah, I'm just thrilled because we're going to be able to now start bringing that knowledge and that experience to folks who are looking to get started in real estate or looking to invest with operators all across the country.
And it's funny how, there's so many lessons that you learn through real estate that spill out over into other areas of your life. This week, as a matter of fact, we had a board meeting for my son's lacrosse team. And there were some things that came up in the initial board meeting, that the principles from rigging the game, having a barbell strategy, having clarity, certainty. Why are we doing these things that I'm used to applying to real estate? It's like instant shift. Like everything started, these little beacons started coming up in the conversations that we're having, and it provided clarity for that meeting. Like, let's get really clear on what our focus is here, because we're jumping ahead to points 2, 3, and 4 when we really need clarity on point 1 before we waste effort over here. So it's interesting to see those principles that we're learning through the book apply into so many others areas of life, but initially it started off in real estate.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. This isn't a real estate specific thing. This is an operating system for business and life, and how to use the tools, and real estate's a tool, to get closer to the things that we want in life without chasing more and more and more. So if anyone's listening to this and they want to learn more about what we're doing, we are launching a 3-part webinar series where we're just going to get up and give everything that we possibly have relative to how we use this system. So establishing some of these tools and frameworks to help you get clarity on what that next step is, and then help you get exposure to the different opportunities and different options that are out there, so you can learn to play your game in real estate and really design a portfolio around your life, around the things that matter most to you, because we believe that success is defined individually. And so if we can slow down, get clarity on what success looks like, we have an amazing group of investors that can help you find the strategy that you can go execute on, whether that's active or passive. So if you guys are interested in learning more about that, you can go to realestatecertainty.com. At the top, there's a little button that says 3-part series. And if you put your name down on that form, we'll send you a link to join our webinar. I think the first one is August 29th. Does that sound right, Laramie?
27th or 29th. I'd have to go back and look at the calendar. But yes, I think it's the last week of August.
Yeah, it's the 29th. I'm seeing there. So like I said, we're going to do a 3-part series, and we're just going to give our process out. This is going to be a little bit of a fire hose to the face. You guys are going to learn everything that we know in terms of how to apply this operating system. If you haven't already, go pick up a copy of that book, Rigging the Game, and maybe give it a look over, or try to read it before the start date. But I'm extremely excited about this, and I don't know about you, but I think we're going to help a lot of people overcome that hurdle of not knowing what to do in order to get started in real estate.
And if you're trapped in your 9-to-5 job and you have a long commute, you can also download the Audible version and listen to it on your commute.
That's exactly right. Well, I'm thrilled about that. Anything you want to add about the webinar series, or anything we're doing there?
No, I'm really excited. I've got people that I've already sent the link to that have enrolled. They're chomping at the bit, getting ready to get started. They've started reading through the book. It's going to be a great opportunity for people to get some exposure to this operating system. And we're going to come alongside that and share some experiences that we've had in applying that to real estate. I think it's going to provide a lot of clarity and certainty for people to help take that next step.
I agree. Fantastic. Well, I want to wrap up by asking you to share, because you, like I said, you've been a cop. You and your wife were cops and teacher. You went into direct sales. Now you're like Mr. Airbnb there in Tennessee and doing all these amazing things with developments. And so, what has been your greatest lesson learned in business so far, Laramie?
So, we built our real estate portfolio initially. It was kind of like building a plane in midair. We just took a leap and stuff started working. Then we started trying to put the pieces together after we had already taken flight. It's very easy for people to be employed somewhere, start doing real estate, and I believe God created us with the ultimate purpose to work. Like you will work. Like the purpose of real estate is not to well, for some people it is to just sit on the beach and drink Mai Tais all day. That's not my purpose. I believe that we were created to work. However, I did not want to work myself into another job. And there's a big difference there from being a real estate investor and being someone that is an employee. And it's very easy. If you continue to pursue the more lifestyle, wanting to add more, needing to do more because you lack certainty, it's very easy in real estate to work yourself into another job. And there's lots of areas in our journey where I'm like, okay, I can save a couple of dollars here and a couple of dollars there by doing the landscaping, by doing the mowing, by doing some repairs and things like that. And not only did I work myself into jobs that took me away from other things I was doing and responsibilities in my life, but I also was not learning to develop processes that help me scale my real estate business. So as you start building, you're going to feel that draw to do more and more and more. Without clarity, without certainty, you can very easily work yourself into another job. And that's not the reason that we're doing real estate. We're doing this to free up time, to give you options. So just be cautious of that.
That's so good, man. And we do sum that up in our operating system as what we call the first wealth commandment, which is closer versus more. It's all about how do we get closer to the things that matter most to us in life without getting caught in this, hamster wheel of chasing more and more and more. So that's really well said, and I love that. Well, Laramie, it was a pleasure to have you on the show today. And if you guys want to get more from Laramie, he's going to be he, myself, and another whale named Max Vollmer, who we're going to have on the show next week. We're going to be launching this 3-part series here on August 29th. If you want to be a part of that, if you want to learn and go to school on our tuition, right? We've been doing this. We've made the mistakes. We've had the successes. We know the strategies that are out there, and we want to give it to you guys. We want to share our knowledge completely for free. If you want to learn more about that, go to realestatecertainty.com. In the top left there, I guess, there's a button for 3-part webinar series. You can click that. You can add your name to the form. We're thrilled to see you guys here on the 29th. Laramie, like I said, great to have you in, man. And I look forward to watching you continue to get closer to the things that matter most in your solvable problem.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Paul.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Everyone else, we'll see you next week on our next episode.